We are looking at lesson 100 today. We are looking at parabolas.
Not a grapher. We don't draw stuff like mini graphs.
We're looking at graphs of parabolas. Graphs of parabolas. So we're looking at equations versus functions first. Linear equation, 0 equals 5x plus 3. Linear function, y equals 5x plus 3. What's the difference between the equation and the function?
Y.
Y equals. It has an x and a y for the function. Yeah. A quadratic equation, we've dealt with those before, right? 0 equals x squared plus 4x plus 4. What would be an example of a quadratic function? Yes, y equals x squared plus 4x plus 4. Linear, when you graph them, linear functions are lines. Linear lines. Does that make sense? What about a quadratic? It is a parabola. Some. Okay. One way you can graph a parabola is to use a table of values. Where did this 4 and 16 come from? We plug in 0 over here. And then what do we plug in to get 16? If you plug in 2, you get 16. Does that make sense? What would we get if we plugged in 3? You plug in 3. 9 plus 12 plus 4 is what? Do you see how that works? Okay, what if you plugged in negative 2? 0, okay. If you plug in negative 3? Make sense? Where those numbers are coming from? Any other questions? Okay, so how are we going to graph our parabola? So 0, 4, where am I going to go?
0 and then up 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
0, so don't go left or right. And then you go up 4. 216, will that one fit? Okay, 325. Okay, negative 2, 0, does that work on our, we can fit it on our axes? And then negative 3, 1, does that one fit? Doesn't look like much right now. Okay. What other numbers might be helpful to know? 1? Okay. If you plug in 1, what would you get? One squared plus 4 plus 4. Miranda said to pick 1. Okay, we can try negative 1. Why are y'all picking 1 and negative 1?
1 if you want.
But why did y'all pick those numbers?
Because they're small.
They're small, and they're going to be around these points. Negative 1, what do you get? So negative 1. Okay. What other one would help? We already tried 2. Negative 4, okay. What is it going to? Yes, if you use 5, you will get 9. So do you see what it looks like? What does it look like? What it should look like. You see how that works? No, that's okay.
One where it's always positive.
Absolute value?
Absolute value.
Oh, those look like, yeah, those are V's. That's an absolute value. These are U's, okay? Y'all see how that works?
Yeah.
What do you notice about the points, the graph?
They're equal.
If we went over 1, we're going to go up 1, over 1, we went up 1. These are the same distance away from the middle. Same thing over here. Same thing over here. They are symmetric about this line. Called the axis of symmetry. Symmetric symmetry. It's like you take it and you fold it over. It's going to be the same thing. Can. Do y'all see how to graph it using a table? Okay. So every parabola is symmetric about its axis of symmetry. It's a vertical line. If yours is not symmetric, you have done something wrong. Every parabola is symmetric. Your parabola either opens upward or it opens downward. If you have a positive x squared, it's going to open upward. If you have a negative x squared, it's going to open down.
This is right there. It is. Oh, I forgot it is.
I don't even remember what
Alright,
I
got
did
it.
yesterday.
The next right there is like,
Didn't have that stand either.
oh, I remember now.
Okay, the parabola crosses the y-axis at the value of its constant term. What does a constant mean? A number. Let me go back. I'll come back to this in just a sec. What is our constant on this equation? A 4. And where does it cross the y-axis? At 4. Does that make sense? That's the y-intercept, yes. Any questions on the terminology so far? Okay. So you want it to be in the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. That's called standard form. Sometimes they'll give it to you where it's like y minus 3 equals some stuff. You want to start by making it y equals the rest of it. C is your y-intercept. A tells you whether it's going to open up or down. If it's positive, where is it going to open? Up. If it's negative, where is it going to open? Down. Does that make sense?
If it's going downward, but it still has a positive y or so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Y equals a x minus h squared plus k is called vertex form. The reason it's called vertex form, it gives you the vertex of your parabola. Your vertex is hk. hk. The numbers for your vertex are already spelled out for you. X equals h is your axis of symmetry. And then this little a tells you whether it opens upward or downward. If you have it in this form, it's a lot easier to graph. It's going to give you an A, it's going to give you an H, and it's going to give you a K. They're going to be actual numbers. It's a lot more difficult to graph ones that are in standard form. You really want to put them in vertex form to graph them pretty quickly. We're about to go over that. Okay. Right now, what form is it in? How are we going to change it to vertex form? What does it say? Complete the square to change to vertex form. Complete the square to change it to vertex form. You are going to do it a little bit differently than you might have completed the square before. You're thinking you would move the 2 over. We're just going to keep it over there. And we're going to complete the square inside of the parentheses. How do you complete the square? What is half of negative 4? Square it, and you get 4. So if we added it to the right side, what do we have to do? Add it to the left side. Well, then you'd be adding 8 to that side. So yeah, y plus 4 equals x squared minus 4x plus 4 plus 2. So how does that factor? But is this in the right form yet? So what is it? Do you agree with that? 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Our a is 1. Why is it 1? There's nothing right here. You can put a 1 there. We will. I don't know if the next one, it has a negative. But. So our a is 1. Is this one going to open up or down? Why is it going to open up? Okay. What is our vertex? Well, x minus h squared, the h is my x value, right? So x minus h squared plus k. So what is my h going to be? Is it negative 2 or 2? Because x minus h. So h is 2. You see how that works? Correct. If it had been x plus 2, it would actually be an h is a negative 2. The sign on the h is different than what it is in your equation. But what about my k? It's just negative 2. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm going to go back to this first one that we graphed. Where is my vertex on my parabola? Yeah. Yeah. It's where it starts either curving back up or curving, if it's like this, curving back down. Okay? All right, so I'm going to graph my vertex. Where am I going to go? Okay. Now what can I do? There's another point that I automatically can know. Well, yes, our a is 1. That tells us it opens upward. Where is our y-intercept?
Oh, 2? I don't know. Okay, I know that's the first place. Oh, the axis of symmetry is going to be 0.
Where is y? In standard form, our constant is our y-intercept. So what is this 2? The y-intercept. Okay, y'all are saying add in your axis of symmetry. Okay. Correct. Do you agree with that? Okay, we've got how many points so far? We need 5 total. So pick a point. What number are you going to want to do?
0.
Well, we already have 0, 2.
I'm
So
going to go with 5. I'm going to go
1.
with 1, 3.
1 would be easier because it's in between these, so we know that it's going to be on our graph. If I pick another number, I don't know where it's going to end up. It might be too far off and I have to pick yet another one. Could you also pick 3? It's going to give you the same value as 1. Okay? 1 minus 2 squared minus 2. So when I plug in 1, what do I get? Okay, so what if I had plugged in 3? It would still be negative 1. It's going to be on the same side.
Wait, I thought I had 4.
Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you have 5 points now?
Oh, no.
So now we graph it. And you're done.
You have to, like,
Do y'all see how that works? Okay, let's look at another one.
oh, it's going down. It's showing down.
Why is it going to be opening downward?
Because the 8 is negative.
Our x squared has a negative in front of it. If you want to try that, you can. So, we need to get it so that that negative isn't there right now. I'm going to take out a negative from the x squared. Why is it going to be minus 2x? If you take out a negative from a positive, it becomes the negative. Is it minus or plus 2 here? Are we taking out the negative from that too? No. We're just taking it out from the x squared and the 2x. So plus 1. What number is this really though? Why is it a negative 1? Yeah, you have a negative when you multiply that by the negative on the outside. So am I going to add a 1 over here? I'm going to subtract 1.
Yay.
Does that make sense? You have a negative out here, so when you distribute it, negative times 1 is negative 1. So we didn't really add a 1. What did we add? So we have to add a negative 1 on the other side. You got to balance them out. Negative times 1 is negative 1. We didn't add a 1. We added a negative 1. So what will this factor into? Is that in the right form? What do we need to do? Do you agree? Now we can graph it. What is our vertex? X minus h. X minus what? 1. So our h is 1. And our k is 3. Does it open up or downward? Do y'all see how that works? Okay. Where'd you get the 2? Coming back to the one they gave us. So what other point does that give me? Okay. Okay, if you plug in negative 1. Negative 1 minus 1. Squared. But it's really negative 4 plus 3. right? So what other point does that give me? Where'd you get 4? Okay. And now you complete your graph. Do you see how that works? Any questions there? Are the negatives more difficult? So when you factor, does it factor out of the x squared? The negative, does it factor out of the x squared? You pull out the negative? Do you pull it out of the 2x? Do you pull it out of this 2? No. Once you plug your number in, what do you have to do? You have to subtract the same thing over here. Because it's really a -1 that you added. Does that make sense? Any questions on these? Okay, I've got your test graded.